Our first video review of a e-bike was a electric mountain bike from a cyberbike mullet type R. This next e-bike shall go unnamed. It came directly from China. We ordered it off of Alibaba. So for this next e-bike review, we're doing something a little different. We actually ordered one directly from China off of Alibaba, and the battery and the bike shipped separately. The battery just arrived today. This is a 24.5 amp hour battery. It's time for e-bike review number 2. We ordered it off of Alibaba about 4 months ago. I learned from the last one that the first thing you want to do is open the box of goodies.
Voila.
They did a pretty nice job of packaging it. The Bafang M620 motor, which is also known as the Bafang Ultra. I think it's like 1,000 watts. It has the Tektro hydraulic brakes and another Pro Max handlebar and Pro Max fuse, and for the derailleur, and a nice derailleur protector, which is good to see. The tail lamp that doesn't seem to be wired to the bike at all, and a headlamp that does look like it's hardwired in, and a Bafang controller screen. The instructions are for a broad variety of bikes, and they don't say anything about attaching the handlebars, which I need to do. Directions are definitely much more carefully thought out on the other bike that was built for a United States audience, packaged and branded for a United States audience. This has got pretty nice components, but I don't totally know what I'm doing. Like here, for instance. And while I'm not a bike reviewer or a bike mechanic, I have actually built a bike, from all the way up. So I do at least understand the basics. Know that that's an axle. It is the axle, though. I think that there's actually an axle already in here, so I probably just need to take that piece out. All put together. It's pretty kind of compact. Dibs off and rolling. Kickstand doesn't provide a lot of ground clearance, which might be a little bit of an issue on some of our back roads around here.
Look how low the chain is, too.
Yeah. A little bit of a hard time at the factory. That screw, that's too bad. You can see that not everything on it is quite symmetrical. That little guy there is not quite lined up with the other one. That side's a little bit further out than that side. It's just not quite symmetrical. She says it's short, chain so low, and it looks like it's for the military. Ride experience on our cyber bike is much more refined than this. It almost feels like it has a torque, doesn't have a torque sensor. It feels like it has a cadence sensor. Well, we switched, and I can tell you the cyber bike rides like 10 times nicer than that bike. This feels like riding a sweet electric bike. That one, riding a interesting electric toy. But it's going to be totally functional. It does not have the smooth feeling that this bike has. And this bike, I'm sure, doesn't even feel close to smooth as a mountain bike. Yeah. What do you think, babe?
I'm not going to say that.
Realized I hadn't locked in the battery when it came flying out in the corner. Need to work on my cargo packing tie down situation. I've noticed that the brakes are making a bit of a warbling sound. I looked online, And it might be because this is breaking too close to this edge, and I need to move it this way, which means you have to take this and this, I think, and put a spacer in here, or maybe it's some adjustment here.
I do want to go there.
Rubber grips right here were the first thing to go. As you can see, this is enjoy scraping. The extended tail mullet cargo bike I ordered off of Alibaba came with a Bafang M620 motor and a 24.5 amp hour battery at 48 volts. I forget how many watt hours that is, something like 1200. 48 times 24.5, whatever that is. Anyway, it's a pretty honking battery, but this motor is a pretty powerful motor and draws a lot of power. It's also, I have found, not the smoothest motor. It tends to kick in with a fair amount of power, and it also keeps spinning for a while after you stop pedaling, which, considering it's one of Bafang's like top end motors, is a little confusing to me. A friend thinks that maybe it has to do with the fact that it's geared for carrying cargo, and I haven't been carrying that much weight on it. I don't know. I'll experiment. The brakes are also quite noisy, and I think it might have something to do with how they're sitting on the disc. That might need to get moved out like that a little bit. They work fine as brakes, they're just noisy. And today what I'm going to do is ride to the end of this charge on the battery. I think I've got, well, let's see how many miles I've got on there so far. It's showing 32 miles on this trip, and I've got 35% left battery. When I parked it last night, I think it was showing 30% battery left, so I think that's a little bounce back, and I expect it's going to drop rapidly. What we're going to do is go on my little 4-mile loop, I think it is. 4 point something mile loop, and do it until the battery dies. See how far we get. I haven't gone half a mile and it's already down to 30%. Now it's time for a little top speed run here on throttle only. Battery just hit 24% and the throttle dropped off precipitously. This may be a short ride. I was just going for my top speed run, and the battery cut out, or I hit 24% on the battery, and the motor cut out precipitously. I don't know if it went into limp mode or not. I guess we're about to find out. So I'm about halfway through the loop. 34.4 miles. We just made it up the big hill. And throttle was basically gone. We went to 20% battery, and I don't think we're going to be able to get in another loop. At 16%, the battery is still providing me a good amount of pedal assistance. You know, it's still easy riding. But the throttle is topping out at 11 miles an hour. And normally it would be up in the high 20s in this gear that I was in. So we've definitely had a slowdown in the output of the juice from around 25%. We're now at 16%. We've gone about 4 miles. So we've gone down about 14%, or supposedly 19% since the beginning of this ride over the course of 4 miles. So it's classic, one of those batteries that fades fast at the end. And it's still easy pedaling. I don't really have to put anything into this. We're going 10 miles an hour. But when I hit the throttle, I'm not getting that juice like I normally do. This is where we're at. We're at limbo mode. Still a respectable 12 miles an hour, 13 even. I don't know if I'm gonna do another loop or not. I'm kind of thinking not. We're at 12% and 39.5 miles. I got tired of riding around in town in circles trying to run the battery down on flat ground, so I head over a hill. And coming up the hill, we had 8% left on the battery, and we're at 41.9 miles, and it's pretty much conked out. I would call that quits. But you know, probably 45. 42.5 miles. I have 8% battery left. I think I could probably squeeze another couple miles out of this, but I'm not gonna. Overall, it's a fun bike. It's a little smaller than I anticipated. I'm gonna have to modify it a little bit. Put on maybe a taller seat post, riser handlebars, or else a riser stem. Both. I think riser handlebars though. And I think I'm gonna put on fenders down here. That's about it for now. I need to customize this. I think what I'm going to need to do is take this is a rear one, I'm going to need to cut it shorter. So that one up there is going to attach with no issue right there. But then this one doesn't line up. And I can't figure out where I'm going to need to drill that until I cut back here. This is not clearing this light. Marked. Now I'm going to use this other fender to trace the shape that I want. Cut that little shape right there. Well, I had to redo this back end, and I was feeling pretty good about my customization skills on the second try until I had to recreate this hole, and I made that. Whoops. Holes drilled in, imitating that. Hopefully they're somewhat appropriately placed. Well, in a convenient twist, the bolts provided by the manufacturer do not fit the holes in the frame. This won't screw in here. Try to get a good angle on that, but that's not going in. So, time to go to the parts bin. That's the right size. Do I have more? 3. And the nut. That might be enough. I might need a couple washers in here on there, and Got these screws tightened in. They recommend removing the tire to do this, and so do I, but I did it without because there's quite a bit of clearance. This up here, these holes are supposed to hold this guy, but I don't think that that's going to be part of this situation. Maybe I'll make it work. I don't know. However, these screws here are not included to do some custom bending, but I got them on both sides, as you can see over there. And so hopefully this will rattle around less, although it might just rattle around more. That seems pretty solid. Well, that took me probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours in one trip to the hardware store. Looks pretty nice though. One of the issues with ordering a bike off Alibaba is the size. I see the millimeters and all that stuff, and I just get confused because, I'm not used to millimeters. I don't really actually know bike sizes that much in general, so I looked at the pictures and I watched a video, and the bike seemed relatively large compared to the guy riding it. However, it's relatively small compared to me. So I am working on expanding the cockpit, and one of the things I bought was the #1 best-selling handlebar on Amazon with a 120 millimeter rise. One would hope that this would be relatively straightforward. All I've got to do is, loosen, well, that, and that, and that, and that, and something down here, and that, 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 and those. Yeah. Slide those off. Pray that the wires are long enough for the rise. We'll see here. This cable here, so that it doesn't pull out every time I turn the wheel, which it's still kind of doing. I had to remove the basket and cut the bars, so that I'll had to move these over. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and see you next time.